never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island.
I never had the privilege of going to Epstein's island.
You're gonna tell me, with God knows how many pictures like this, look at this, look at this, that he wasn't up to no good with this rat bastard right here?
If you hear a man saying right now at this time in history that he still supports Donald Trump, that man is telling you that he would do the exact same thing.
This situation is so effed up that even MAGA are starting to question why they voted for this man. See, what? So Trump saying that he never had the privilege of going to the Epstein Island. The privilege. He never had the privilege. He never had the privilege. Like he's sad about not him having a privilege of going to Epstein Island. Let's pretend and be delusional that DJT never went to Epstein Island. It would have been a privilege. In 2025, the President of the United States of America sits and says, I never had the privilege to go to Epstein Island. So it would have been a privilege. After everything we know about Epstein and how the Epstein files are having everybody and their mother thinking, what the hell is going on? The President of the United States says he never had the privilege. So it would have been a privilege if DJT went to Epstein Island.
If you don't claim Donald Trump as your president, I want to hear from you, because he said, as the president of the United States, I did not have the privilege of going to Epstein's Island. I did not have the privilege of going to Epstein's Island. That is what he said. And if we take the word Epstein out and replace it for what it really is, instead of that euphemism, I never got a chance to go to a sex ring island. I never got to go to a pedophile island. I never got to go to a sexual abuse of minor island. That's what he's saying. I never had the pleasure to go to a pedophile island. That is what the president of the United States said. Could you imagine? What if your neighbor said that? I never had the pleasure of going to Epstein Island. Or your coworker. Would you associate with that person? What if your friend, your family member said, oh, yep, never had the pleasure of going to Epstein. This isn't King Epcot. We're talking about Epstein Island, where the darkest of dark things occurred. And Donald Trump, the president of the United States, a position that used to be in the highest regard of all American people, said, I never had the pleasure of going to an island of pedophiles. That's where we are. I have to remind myself every single day that that is where we are. This is the reality. This is the fork in the road, and this is the path that America chose. I didn't vote for him. I know the majority of the people who are going to see this video did not vote for him either, but we collectively chose this for our nation. How?
If you hear a man saying right now at this time in history that he still supports Donald Trump, that man is telling you that he would do the exact same thing. That's the type of man who 100% says, if there's grass on the playing field, play ball. That's the type of man who, if he had $1 billion and thought that he could go to a private island and do that exact same thing with girls that exact same age or younger and get away with it, nobody would ever find out. That's the type of man that would do exactly what Donald Trump did. The only thing that he's thinking is that Trump had the money to do it. I would do it too. You get where I'm coming from here. If a man's still supporting Donald Trump in this day and age, that is not a good man or a safe man. Don't get anywhere near that man.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand, and I've been fighting that very world to this day, and I won't stop fighting. I will never be silenced until these people are brought to justice. So thank you all very much.
For years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place.
Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. But just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
With some of them.
Were some of them young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
What did they do?
In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told them, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, does that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people, yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know.
If DJT thinks it would have been a privilege of going to Epstein Island, then he believes it would have been a privilege for him to say young girls the way Epstein did. Because that would have been the essence of going to Epstein Island. And we have MAGA still supporting this man. Who would die to have a privilege to be on Epstein Island if he could? This man is an offender. And MAGA says, nah, he not. He's a good guy. A good guy who actually wished to have a privilege to be on Epstein Island. Same man says Epstein stole his girls. Well, Mr. President, so are you confirming that the girls were young? You are literally trying to say that you had young girls. Because if you are saying, without anybody forcing you to say something, that you found out Epstein stole your girls, you had underaged girls, right, Mr. President? No, because if they were minors at Epstein Island and you are raged right now in 2025, the man died like 2 years ago, that he stole your girls, sir, what were you doing with young girls? The fact is not that Epstein stole them away from you. You had young girls in your possession, Mr. President.
So, sir, I just want to confirm, it's your testimony that E. Jean Carroll said that she loved being sexually assaulted by you?
Well, based on her interview with Anderson Cooper, I believe that's what took place. That's what she said I did to her. She fainted with great emotion. She actually indicated that she loved it. Okay? She loved it until commercial break. In fact, I think she said it was sexy, didn't she? It was very sexy to be raped. Didn't she say that?
Donald Trump just implicated himself in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and revealed to reporters that Jeffrey Epstein had poached an underage girl from his spa during the height of his crime ring. So on Air Force One just now, Trump, when explaining to reporters why he had cut off Epstein, said the following, quote, "People were taken out of the spa, hired by Epstein, ... I told him we don't want you taking our people, whether it's from the spa or not spa. He did it again. I said, out of here." And then the reporter asked Trump, quote, "Was one of the stolen people Virginia Giuffre?" To which Trump responded with, quote, "I think so. He stole her." Now, for those of you who don't know, Virginia Giuffre was one of the victims of Epstein and Maxwell. And Donald Trump, the president of the United States, just admitted that Epstein used Donald Trump's hotel to scout for clientele.
This is one of the craziest clips I've seen of Donald Trump talking about his connection to Epstein. Just take a look.
That was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island.
What? Are you kidding me? I never had the privilege of going to Epstein Island. You know, if there were an island owned by a really bad guy and horrible things took place on that island, I would not describe it as a privilege to go there. Donald Trump, on the other hand, well, I guess he thinks that would be an honor for him to be there. So strange, so weird. I don't know why he keeps digging this hole deeper for himself. It's probably because there's something to hide. But I just can't wait to see the Trump supporters try to defend this comment. Like, please elaborate for all of us how going to that island would be a privilege.
Do you want to know why Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? Because none of us on the right are denying that he's in the Epstein files. But the reason for him being in those files is because he, Donald Trump, is the reason Epstein went to prison.